cause in Kenya, and for their handiwork of making great food, and that's barbecue. So that's the title, Q for a Cause. And James, welcome to the program. Nice to see you today.
Hey, it's good to see you, Greg.
You have an incredible voice for not being in radio, and I'm jealous, but that's okay. You know, the guy
whenever you retire.
That's right. Well, the guy on the street had a good voice too, but you know, it's James. What's his name?
Yeah,
James,
blew that cover.
You kind of blew that cover, but James, welcome to the program this morning. The Q for a Cause. You and Jeff Mette, who's sitting next to you here this morning, came up with the idea with your special recipe for barbecue. Everybody loves barbecue in the South, and you can't go wrong with feeding the millions, so to speak, through the church. But you got involved with an orphanage. We're going to talk to Mike, who's been actually over there in Kenya, but an orphanage that's already in existence over in Kenya. Take us back a little bit on the history of this whole program.
Well, you'll hear more from Mike in a little bit, but the group from our Sunday school class helped move some orphans out of a slum in Nairobi, Kenya, and moved them out into the countryside. And after that, there was a need to continue to raise funds to help feed and clothe these kids. And we thought, what better way to pay it forward is, what can we do to raise funds? And thus, we both like barbecue. We both had green eggs, and we'd also been to Pork University. Thank you, Sam. Barbecue One up in Marietta. But we went to his university, and we said, here's a great way we can use pork. The margins are great, and we can give all this money to a great charity and these kids. And
it's a time-sensitive event, too, because it's going to happen, this particular one, and it's going to happen throughout the year during major holidays. But Super Bowl is kind of, I think, an unofficial holiday for America as people gather around Jeff Mette around the TV and enjoy themselves and family and through the church as well. And they're going to have a big bash at the church itself, and you're kind of part of that with the barbecue. So tell us about what's going to happen both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for having us on here to talk about it. There's actually a couple opportunities over Super Bowl weekend for you to get some barbecue. We'll actually have on Saturday available for pickup at the church from 9 to 12, where you can just come in and pick up the pulled pork and sauce by the pound and take it home for dinner or for Super Bowl parties or whatever it might be. And then on Sunday, there's actually some activities tied in through the church after services. So starting at noon, there's going to be lunch and some activities out there on the lawn, and you'll actually be able to have pork there, and it's very affordable, $6 a person, or maxes out at $23 for the family.
Sure.
And at the same time, it'll be available for pickup there.
It's a great way to get involved with the community, with the church, and you don't have to necessarily be a member of the congregation to come by and enjoy this food, too. This is open to the entire public because the whole cause that you're doing is a worldwide concern, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's certainly a worldwide concern, and we're wanting to help the folks out. But part of the things that we like so much about Q for a Cause is it's actually it's a good deal, even if you're not into the cause. I mean, it's $10 a pound. It's kind of the going rate, and so if you're part of the barbecue congregation, it'll work for you there.
There is a barbecue congregation
in the South.
Yes. It sounds like a Jimmy Buffett song happening right in front of us. That's for sure. Mike Picchi is here, my Italian friend with 4 children. So you luck out on this $23 deal, don't you?
Yes, our family saves about $7 versus the per head cost.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Mike, you've been to the orphanage. You've seen this whole thing in action, and take us over to Kenya, kind of paint a word picture for us this morning, because this is such a wonderful thing that our community here locally is involved in, that we transcend for so many miles.
Well, our involvement, and I say our Sunday school class, and Jeff and James and I are all in the same Sunday school class with Amber, the builders at Roswell United Methodist. Our Sunday school class had this fellow, Kelly Myrick, who went to Kenya back in 2004. And he found this orphanage, 80 kids living in the slums of Nairobi. Think of a shanty town, tin roof, tin siding, no running water. These kids left to fend for themselves. And he came back and he said, "You won't believe what I've seen. We have to help these kids." And so that got our class involved. And we started some monthly subsistence to pay for some food. In subsequent years to 2004, our class sent missionaries over there to work with the kids. And I'll tell you, the first time I went in the summer of 2008, I still remember looking at the 80 children living in the slums and saying, where did all these kids come from? Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. Each of these children had their own story of how they became an orphan and ended up living in these deplorable conditions. 4 to a bed, no running water, you can imagine.
And this orphanage is a faith-based orphanage, Holy Redeemer over there, run by is it through the Methodist Church or another church, or how does that all come together?
Yes, so Merciful Redeemer, the orphanage, is sponsored by a non-denominational organization called Glory Outreach Assembly, or GOA. And Glory Outreach Assembly is led by a fellow, David Thagana, who was educated here in the United States in terms of seminary. And there's a number of churches here in the Atlanta metro area that work with GOA as an umbrella organization. North Point and Brownsbridge up and coming, and Mount Pisgah United Methodist and Roswell United Methodist are example of churches that sponsor Glory Outreach Assembly. And Glory Outreach Assembly in turn runs 4 orphanages over there in Kenya.
How many kids do you see when you've gone? You've been over there more than one time, I take it.
I have.
Yeah. So when you go from time to time, do you see progress? Do you see improvement? Do you see more smiling faces, or does it stay the same, or is it more children? What's the progress report over there?
Oh, the progress over the last several years has been amazing, and it is one of the things we do when we do go over in the summer is that we try to hit all 4 orphanages that GOA works with. And the orphanages are at various stages of development. Some have been around for 10 years, some have been around for as few as 2 years. Merciful Redeemer is a great example, who's been around at least for 7 years. Those kids have migrated now from the slums of Nairobi, eventually ran a capital campaign, and I'll come back later this morning and talk a little bit about the campaign that we did to move those kids into the outskirts, their own 10-acre campus on the outskirts of Nairobi. But you see the development in the children in terms of from the clothing that we provide. We take over when we go there. Our kids used clothing, gently used clothing, and now those kids in Kenya have clothing that is suitable for them. The nutrition has improved, and so their bodies are healthier. And then the last component is the education. We have they are taught in a Christian environment with teachers, and so those kids are able to develop such that they can qualify to get into the Kenya high school structure. And so the kids in particular at Merciful Redeemer run an age from 2 to 13 years old, and at 13 then they're able then to move on to the formal Kenya public school system. Amazing development over the last 3 years.
Now, this is an orphanage, so do you provide, are they looking for, this is a foster home scenario where you're looking for parents for these children, or are they in this orphanage for a long period of time because that's the way of life there?
The latter. They're in the orphanage for a long period of time as a way of life. It's very difficult in Kenya to adopt kids. There's a requirement for a family in the United States, if they wanted to adopt children in Kenya, you had to go live in country for 6 months. So the Kenyan kids generally, I say, and this is a generalization, generally stay in Kenya. They do not get adopted out of country. So these kids are stuck in a long term. This is how they're going to be raised because they've lost their parents.
Sure.
And that's why it's so nice to see Q for a Cause take off, because Jeff and James have been able to raise money that can further the mission and accommodate more kids in the orphanage.
And it's an exciting time to see, gentlemen get involved, people from this church and many other churches around Metro Atlanta to step up to the plate, so to speak. Pardon the pun, because that's what you're serving here is great food, barbecue for a cause. And I just mentioned the website that we're talking about here this morning with all this information about the orphanage and so forth is on the web at qforacause.com, capital Q for a cause.com. And also on Facebook at Q for a Cause on Facebook as well. So lots of chances to kind of reevaluate what we're talking about here this morning on the Atlanta Reports here. And I'm Greg Talmadge. We're talking with 3 wonderful people, plus Amber Mette is here, who brought these people to the table this morning from outside the Metro Atlanta area. She's an entrepreneur here as far as business is concerned, and always looking for great topics. We're going to talk about some other things we're going to have coming up here on the show here in the weeks to come. But it's been an exciting time to be here on the program this morning as we get to our first break. And a big reminder from our community calendar that the Cobb Symphony Orchestra is coming up with their noteworthy 5K run. It's going to be on Saturday, February the 26th. It's at Marietta High School again this year. The second year we've done this, and it's for a great cause too, raising money for the Cobb Symphony Orchestra. The concerts yet to come for this season and beyond, and you can get all the information on their website at cobbsymphony.org.